What's the deal, guys, man? This is Dre, Soupy, and today I got my man's
Dallas Palace.
You can go check him out. Link to his channel is in the description. But today I had a recommendation from a subscriber. They told me to react to Brixton versus Peckham. But without further ado, we're gonna get into this. We're gonna find out what's the beef all about, man. This is the infamous beef of Brixton versus Peckham. Let's get into it, man.
Okay. Versus 410. There was a very deadly war going on between Peckham and Brixton.
He said
which was
war.
one of the first nationally publicised beefs in London, gaining a lot of news coverage, and came about in the early stages of YouTube, where we could see direct disses, kind of originating diss tracks how we know it today. So as I said before, the two areas in this feud were Brixton versus Peckham. So first we have Peckham, which is located in the borough of Southwark in South London, which infamously is the area where Jaw Group Zone 2 are from. But before Zone 2, there was the Peckham Boys, which was a gang made up of 5 estates in Peckham, which were the North Peckham Estate, Gloucester Grove Estate, Willowbrook Estate, Camden Estate, and the Sumner Estate. And these estates were very well known for how bad they were. They suffered massive unemployment and crime, and were very deprived. They pretty much were neglected by any law enforcement and government as well, and was even called Pechnam, which is a hybrid between Vietnam and Peckham, comparing the area to the Vietnam War due to how much violence was there. Throughout the Peckham Boys gang, there were different sects, like the Firehouse Crew and the YBP, or Younger Peckham.
This shit happened in London, bro?
Yeah, it's basically the same. Like, you know, just hoods, you know, going to war over different hoods type of junk. Like,
but it was abandoned by the police, bro. That don't make sense, bro.
There were also a couple of Jamaican yardie gangs in Peckham, like the Sunrise Crew and the Spanglers as well. And on the other side of the feud, we have Brixton, which is about an 11-minute ride from Peckham and is located in the borough of Lambeth. Brixton's main gang in this feud was called Gas Gang. It was a gang from the Angel Town estate. And these guys were the most violent gang in the Brixton area, and were even responsible for 3/4 of violent incidents in Brixton in 2012. The Angel Town estate, where Gas Gang is from, probably has the richest history of gangs in London, with many different generational gangs being bred from this estate, like the PDC gang in the 2000s who dominated the estate. Nowadays it's the Get Back gang or 150 to take on this. But let's take it back a minute to 2008, where Peckham, who I first mentioned, was deep in the decades long with a gang called the Ghetto Boys, who was a gang from Lewisham in South London, which was a crazy war in itself, and I'll definitely do a video of that in the future. But in 2008, after decades of back and forth between the Peckham and Lewisham gangs, younger generations in both gangs agreed to an alliance, which was fully solidified during the Notting Hill Carnival in August 2008, when 180 members from both gangs organised a link-up at the carnival. The link-up was actually intercepted by police, because the police thought the two gangs were linking up to fight each other. But as Peckham's relationship with Lewisham got better, their relationship with Brixton started to worsen. See, historically, Brixton and Peckham have always had a feud, even dating all the way back.
Man, I don't know what to say.
Where local streetboys
like, I don't even know what to say. Like, like, you know, I ain't trying to just leave y'all just hanging with this, but like, goddamn.
Yeah,
like,
it's a lot to take in.
It's a lot to take in at the moment, like, man. Like,
I mean, that's good that they tried to rekindle, you know, and try to
everything,
like work stuff out.
But
the
these
police came in and thought they
but
was
they
about
can
to
just
fight.
kill each other. They live 11 minutes away from each other.
For sure.
Like, what's the man?
It's
y'all might
always
as well
gonna
be
be somebody that want to get back though, so it's a cycle. It just keep going. So it's like,
yeah.
areas would clash, which was even more hostile after immigration, because Peckham was filled with mainly African immigrants, while Brixton was filled with mainly Caribbean immigrants. So there's always been big culture clashes there. But as I said, in 2008, the war between Brixton and Peckham was starting to become a lot more heated.
There's nothing more powerful than creating a track.
get out of here, ass.
Sometimes creating music can be challenging. When I'm blocked or just getting.
And these were times where guns were much more accessible than what they are now. It wasn't uncommon for a gang member to be rolling around with a gun, just like how nowadays most gang members roll around with knives. So there was a lot of back and forth shooting.
That's funny.
In one instance,
So,
members from a...
see, that's how I picture Britain. I ain't gonna lie. Like, people got like little swords and muskets and
What?
No, I'm just playing. But yeah, that's how I picture Britain. So you guys rock around with knives more than guns? That's what you just said, basically, right?
Shit.
Don't
That's
count
not-
like you ain't just hear that, bro.
No, he said it's like more guns, like they're more accessible now. Like that's what he said.
No, he said it was more accessible back then.
No.
How much on a bet? Sorry, this is our competitive nature. 1 second.
which was even more hostile after immigration, because Peckham was filled with mainly African immigrants, while Brixton was filled with mainly Caribbean immigrants. So there's always been big culture clashes there. But as I said, in 2008, the war between Brixton and Peckham was starting to become a lot more heated. And these were times where guns were much more accessible than what they are now. It wasn't uncommon for a gang member to be
than what they are now.
Just like how nowadays most gang members roll around with knives. So there was a lot of back and one of the big
Oh, that's like the same story like with what's his name? Tuka? Similar? Like a young guy, you know, got shot. You guys not familiar, you know how like a lot of the drill rappers in Chicago be like, I'm smoking on Tuka, that was actually a kid. But dang, like this is some very deep hate stuff, man. Like
just to rub salt in the wounds, the OC gang made a diss track called Bullet with them. When a member mocked the situation with the lyrics, had you running in the shop like you're buying something? While a member of a Peckham gang then responded to the situation in a song called Real Riders, saying, obviously referencing when Brixton members shot up Woolwich Road, which are some of the early examples of UK diss songs, referencing...
I like that rap though, it sounds way clearer.
Bringing more publicity to the theme. And the people who are up to date with London's street situation at the moment will probably be quite confused, because Woolwich Road actually beats Peckham now. But that's a whole nother story to get into another time. So yeah, after this Woolwich Road shooting, many diss tracks were going back and forth between the gangs, as well as shots. In the same year of 2008 in October, Brixton older members got the drop on a Peckham member's house called Terms and waited in the parked car outside his house. When Terms appeared outside his house, they shot him on his doorstep.
Damn!
Terms was a member of the SN1 gang, which stands for Spare No One. And this is the same gang that the famous rapper Giggs was part of. And Giggs pays respect to Terms sometimes in his songs. It didn't take more than a month for Peckham to respond to this though. In November, Peckham members got the drop that some members from the Brixton gang OC were clubbing at a nightclub called SE1 in Bermondsey, South London, and pulled up to the club, shooting Errol Davis close range in front of 2,500 clubbers, which is even crazier because the murderer was never caught, despite there being thousands of witnesses at the scene. But these times, stuff like this wasn't uncommon, because there was low-level security and no cameras in some of the clubs in 2008, which is something you will never see in clubs in London now. Quite recently, actually, in 2016, the police found the same handgun which murdered Errol Davis at the nightclub in the possession of a man called Andre Chambers, who lived in Woolwich, which is quite sus. It was also later found out that the same weapon which was involved in Errol Davis' murder was also involved in 2 other attempted murders and 1 murder. But Andre Chambers was never found guilty for the murders with little to no evidence, apart from handling the weapon. But that's not enough to go down for a murder. While this direct war between Brixton and Peckham was occurring, there were also a lot of separate gangs and areas who joined alliances in both areas. This was basically turned into some World War III stuff, the South London version. One set based in Old Kent Road called OBY, the South London were affiliated with Peckham. But a dispute between the members started a feud between OBY. Resulting OBY members joined in Brixton in the fight against Peckham, which was fully signified in the track between the 2 gangs called Brooklyn to Baghdad. But OBY went off to a bad start in this feud after losing one of their younger members called Baby Ryder. His real name was Sunday Essien, and he was a 15-year-old orphan from Nigeria. After his mum and dad both died,
they look young.
He started to get involved.
No, it's just like the process, even over the globe, literally Tuka was 15. The process just everywhere. It's just like everywhere, bro. That shit, you can't tell me that's not government.
Before he was stabbed, he pulled out an imitation firearm with 4 rival members.
Are we real?
When they realized it was fake, they chased him through a park while he was screaming for his life, begging his killers not to kill him and spare his life. But he was ultimately stabbed 9 times and left to die. So after the back and forth in 2008, Brixton and Peckham was literally a no-go zone. And me personally, growing up as a kid around these times, despite me not actually living in the area and being too young to understand all this stuff, I just knew Brixton and Peckham was a place you could not go. Even the Member of Parliament of Peckham at the time, Harriet Harman, would wear a bulletproof vest and have security while she walked through Peckham, further embracing the name Pecknall. Then 2009 hit, and this was a big year for music from both sides, but especially from the Peckham side of things, when Giggs dropped a couple mixtapes and started putting some of his other members onto music, like Gunna D and Killer Kai. But Giggs was under a lot of pressure from the police at the time, who would cancel his shows, warn labels not to work with him, and even banned him from appearing in TV and radio, which is something we see a lot now with police taking down these drill music videos. Well, the reason why...
Okay, so that's why I wear a mask.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
This is you. Or at least it could be you. You've been island hopping through Greece with a group of people.
The reason why police were so onto Giggs is because the streets were crazy at these times. And Giggs' Peckham gang, SN1, were making headlines early on in 2009 when they executed the ex-member in broad daylight on a busy street because he fell out with the gang earlier on. This was a ticking point for police because it was seeming to the public at this time that the gangs that took control could do whatever they want, which was essentially true. So police started gathering CCTV footage or previous rideouts from both Peckham and Brixton gangs in an attempt to take down some members. Police sent over this footage to Peckham members' lawyers as proof of their involvement in the feud, which a member then grabbed the footage of his lawyer and uploaded it to YouTube. The original video is no longer up, but a re-upload of it is still on YouTube today. And so is Peckham members riding out in Brixton in masses. And when looking at this footage, this is some propaganda-worthy stuff. Like, the caption on the videos are so funny, and all the footages just show how crazy these times really were. Like, gangs were just riding their ops with 30 guys on pedal bikes, loads of guns and knives. There's no way you can get away with that stuff nowadays in London. 3 boys can't even walk to the shop in London without getting stopped by police, let alone that many people on bikes. Brixton gangs responded to this YouTube video in the music video called Your Lions. And the whole year of 2009 was literally just filled with violence and diss tracks, with some real classics like Wreckagee from Peckham younger members.
So they were able to do what they want because there was no, like, basically nobody governmenting.
Yeah, there was no type of police.
They wasn't wearing no mask or nothing. Man, that shit crazy.
Time of this release, a 13-year-old boy was stabbed 5 times in South London due to the feud between these areas, which hit national attention because 13 is hella young. And I think this rang into a lot of people's mind that this issue was very bad because kids as young and even younger than 13 were now known to be involved in this. And on top of all this Brixton and Peckham beef, Peckham were having their own issues inside the area, and the civil war started to ignite in the Peckham area, which was fully all out after a member of the MOB gang, or Mandem or Brandon, was shot dead by Peckham owners. MOB is a gang from the Brandon estate in South London, which is the same estate Jewelry Moscow 17 is based in. Peckham rapper Snap Capone was linked to the murder, but managed to beat the case. But a member was sent to prison for hiding a gun used in the murder. This created a lot of politics between Peckham and the Peckham-affiliated gangs. And eventually, after many disputes, members of an estate called Lexham Estate split away from the Peckham sets and started beefing Peckham, which just started turning Peckham very messy. At the same time, different Peckham sets started turning on each other. And because Peckham is such a big area and had so many different estates, the gangs just started keeping inside their estate. One of these being the Pelican estate, which started beefing other Peckham gangs after the disagreement, which in December of 2010 resulted in 2 members being stabbed and 1 being shot to death. The member
why is it so brutal? Why are they stabbing each other?
So it started off as Peckham versus Peckham, right? It's Brixton versus Peckham, and then Peckham literally started beefing with each other.
They started beefing with each other. Like,
This shit don't make no sense. This shit's weird.
That's insane, dog. What?
It was called Vesta, and police were investigating the situation heavily at the time. So while this investigation was taking place, a younger member of a rival Peckham gang started to go onto the Pelican estate and post leaflets through the doors, which said, and I quote, "Stop snitching and we'll come for you," which must have been hella threatening for the normal residents who just live on the estate and had nothing to do with the gang situation. 2 members, Tiny Nutty and Jungle, were convicted and sent to a minimum of 30 years for the murder. Just before Tiny Nutty got booked for the murder of Vesta, his older, who was called Nutty, was on remand in prison for a firearm charge. Around these times especially, it would be common for older members to have youngers, which would then take on their name essentially, just like how Tiny Nutty took on Nutty's name. A 17-year-old from Peckham was also on the same charge as Nutty for the firearm. But just like how gang hierarchy works, other members were pressuring the 17-year-old to plead guilty to the firearm charge, which would then allow Nutty to be free. The 17-year-old refused though, which resulted in other members executing the 17-year-old by luring him into a car and shooting him in the back of his head, and then burning the vehicle on the day of the court hearing. Nutty was accused of arranging the murder because of the conflicting stories they both were telling in court. And he looked even more guilty after officers found the lyrics in his cell saying, "Kill your co-defendant if he's snitching in court." Like, I don't think you could get any more bait than that in those lyrics. It's not even like it's a catchy line or anything. I think he was just screaming, "Please lock me up." And that's exactly what they done after finding him guilty of the gun charges and arranging the murder, which he is now serving 32 years for. Also, the Peckham rapper, who is known by a street name CS, was actually caught and convicted for setting the car on fire after the 17-year-old was shot and killed, which he served 4 years for. So as you can tell, Peckham was just a mad area at this time. The civil war they were having was probably more active than their beef with Brixton ever was. One death that really shocked the area was the death of a respected member called Taz. He died during the chase when he crashed his motorbike. Family members put up the shrine when the accident occurred.
I think this is more serious than Chicago, low key. Like, this is dangerous. Like.
Yeah, it sounded like it was wild. Like, they was trying to, like, tell...
But
like,
then Chicago's dangerous too, though.
But no, they was going after innocent people because they said, "Stop snitching or we come for you." Type
Like
shit.
on some...
Yeah, they
we run the boat.
Yeah, like they run the whole fucking city type shit, so...
Some crazy
Ops
shit.
then camped outside the same day of his death, and when a member called Little Groove visited the shrine, they shot him dead the same day. So Peckham was literally a no-go zone at this point. Like, literally everyone was just beefing each other. And while all this madness was happening in Peckham, Brixton were having their own separate issues over in their camp. Gas Gang was starting to get heavily involved in beefs from a lot of surrounding towns, like Brixton Hill and Tulsa. which are blocks of the famous drill groups 6, 7, and 8, 6. One murder that really started changing the dynamic of this beat was the murder of Tulse Hill member Little Zach. It was 2011 and 5 gas gang members rid out in a school located in Tulse Hill, waiting for Little Zach to come home from school. The reason the members targeted Little Zach because he was involved in the stabbing of a gas gang member 2 weeks before.
And they waited for this kid to go out of school and kill him.
The gas gang members chased Little Zach and stabbed him to death. He was only 15 at the time, and this resulted in a few separate gangs starting to turn on gas gang, like ABM, who was a gang located in Stockholm. At this point, literally everyone was beefing everyone. South London was just a very, very dangerous place. And when some murders would be committed, police couldn't even point it towards any specific gang, just because it could have been so many different cliques. Like the murder of Azur Khan in 2011. He was attending the funeral of one of his gas gang friends when he was shot and killed at the burial. But no one has the faintest idea of who it could have been. It could have been one of the many gangs in Peckham, it could have been members from Tulsa, Brixton,
everybody.
or just anyone from the borough of Suffolk. There's just too many possibilities. These murders amped up the fuse between gas gangs and other areas aside Peckham. And it was getting to the point where both Brixton and Peckham had more issues on their hands rather than each other. In 2012, 3 gas gang members rid out on Stockholm looking for members of a rival gang called ABM. When they found the op inside the shop, they let off fire inside the shop, which missed the rival, but ended up hitting a 5-year-old, which left her paralyzed. This hit nationwide news, and this was really the beginning of the end for gas gang, because they started getting more monitored than probably any other gang at the time, which 2 years later resulted in a massive raid taking down some of the key members of the gang. Nowadays, Peckham and Brixton gangs are actually linked up, with both of them having the same ops. But compared to how it was back in 2011 to 2012, both areas have calmed down a lot, with mass surveillance and of course gentrification.
So they cool with each other now?
Some of the old blocks of Peckham, where murders, robbings and shootings would be a daily occurrence. It's crazy how now them same blocks are filled with white hippies with rich parents. But to be honest, that's like most of London now. Anyway guys, that's it for today's video. I might do a part 2 on this because I know there's
so they're saying London is a suburb now. It's not like that no more.
Yeah, they're gentrifying it.
Shit.
Well, that was a long video, but it was very informative. But like, man, if you guys made it this far, I appreciate you guys, man. Thank you for showing so much love. Go ahead and check out Only One Dallas.
Dallas Palace.
Go ahead and check out Dallas Palace. Yeah, man. I appreciate for you recommending. If you guys want me to react to any video, make sure that you comment it below. Yeah, enjoy Soupy. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.